Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We are live. We are here without any technical problems now, and I'm so happy because that surprise witness herself is here. If you aren't yet subscribed to her on YouTube, what are you waiting for? She does amazing legal breakdowns, and she has posted a fantastic video a while back about exposing CNN for what they've done to Britney. And it's a relevant topic because I want to talk about this because last night, Chris Cuomo, CNN's own Chris Cuomo, I just gotta, I guess, close this autoplay. Gotta hate when sites just keep auto-playing even though you don't want them to. Chris Cuomo was suspended by CNN. Here was the statement officially from CNN. The New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits Monday that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense, Andrew Cuomo, who's governor of New York City. The documents which we were not privy to before, before their public release, raised serious questions when Chris admitted to us that he had offered advice to his brother's staff. He broke our rules, and we acknowledged that publicly, but we also appreciated the unique position he was in and understood he needed to put family first and job second. However, these documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts than we previously knew. As a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely pending further evaluation. Now, this is an interesting topic because look, I share the same issue of like, it's hard when it's family. When it's family, you got to support your family and you want to do what you want to do to sort of help protect them and see what you do. I don't really have a problem with Chris rooting around, and I want to get your insight, BJ, because you've been deeper in getting into it. I personally don't have a problem. In fact, I'm okay with someone like just asking around, like, is this report going to drop? What, you know, can I get the information? Can I figure out? That's sort of what newscasters do. I don't got a problem necessarily with that. I understand, and even as CNN said in their first statement, you know, it's a unique position, family first. I don't expect everyone should protect their family in the way of just like, all right, well, what's coming? What do we have here? What can we do? So personally, I don't have an issue with Chris Cuomo like making a few calls to say, hey, what is this we got? What's going on? I feel like anybody would do that in any place. I mean, you're kidding yourselves if you weren't. If someone's like, hey, I got dirt on your brother, you're going to want to do everything you can to figure out, well, what do you got on my brother, to try and just understand what's going on. And maybe that's not even to protect your brother, but just to prepare the family and everyone to say, all right, you gotta own this. You know, there's a lot of reasons why you may want to get that information. Where things get sketchy is it seems that not only was he going really deep and getting this intel, he was crossing some ethical, moral lines and potentially smearing and slandering, trying to figure out how to smear and slander said accusers that were coming forward. And that's obviously where things then go south for me and where it does become more problematic, and how involved he was in the, you know, sort of trying to change the narrative of the media. Now, overall, though, my bigger issue is like, and I want to get to you, BJ, but like CNN does this all the time. I think Fox News is, you know, and Newsmax, we call them out the most as sort of they're the biased ones, and everyone's like, of course, they're just Trump's mouthpiece or the Republicans' mouthpiece, etc. But it needs to be said, CNN is absolutely Democrats' mouthpiece. Like, it's completely fair to say CNN is completely biased to the liberal left side agenda, while Fox News, Newsmax, others are, you know, biased to the right side agenda. And I've been very critical in my whole lifetime of calling out Fox for what it is, because I think Fox is not, you know, the honest everything. They have their own agenda, just like every media outlet does. However, to me, the real story here is the fact that CNN has finally sort of had to do something about it. They're sort of caught, and they're using this example with Chris Cuomo as sort of like, all right, finally we got to address this. But to me, in doing so, they've opened up a can of worms where there are probably a dozen people on their network that are probably doing the same sort of things on the daily. And so to me, this story is really important because, okay, CNN liberals, you're going to start doing this too? Great. Well, now we got to hold you accountable, and you got to actually follow through on everybody that is doing this type of behavior for the sake of the news and not giving us the honest truth, right, is what the reality is. So I want to go to you, BJ, because I know you've started to read a lot more of the transcripts to get sort of more of an idea of, well, what is Chris Cuomo actually guilty of? Do you agree with CNN's take to remove him? And I know you have a deeper personal connection because CNN has wronged you in that, and through Britney Spears, by completely they erased a whole interview you guys did because it didn't fit the narrative, and you refused to let them continue to push down the narrative. And when it sort of exploded in their face, they just didn't even ever post said interview. So I want to go to you first, but before we get to the Britney example, what are your takes based on what you read of what Chris is guilty of, and what are your thoughts on it?
So I guess just to clarify, with the word guilty, that would imply that this was some type of criminal investigation against Chris Cuomo, and it's not. He is facing professional consequences here, professional repercussions, because frankly, he has violated not only CNN's rules of journalist integrity, but just general notions of journalistic integrity. And so I am sympathetic to some degree that this was a sort of precarious situation. They're brothers. To hear, one of their wives, I don't remember which one of their two wives had even said that Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, actually helped to raise Chris, the CNN anchor, because their father, a lot of people don't know, was the governor of New York also for 12 years. And so he was out being busy and whatever. Andrew Cuomo is like 13 years older than Chris. So they do have a very tight relationship. Anyone would who knows them would agree and would confirm that. But sort of putting that aside, in this part right here, what I'm about to say is my opinion. In my opinion, what I have seen is Chris Cuomo, or maybe CNN, one of them, misrepresented how deep Chris really was in when all of this stuff was going on. And Chris Cuomo has said, I'm not an advisor, I'm not a counselor to my brother, I'm his brother. But in these transcripts that I started to read, he actually does say that he was giving advice in a role of an advisor or a counselor as a media expert, right? So essentially the big TLDR of the transcript is Chris Cuomo was very, very much so involved as part of the PR team. Whenever in December 2020, women started to make allegations against Andrew Cuomo, they immediately sucked Chris Cuomo in. I mean, he even admits that in the transcripts. He says, when all this stuff started popping off, I'm paraphrasing here, and you do have the transcript, maybe we can put a link to that somewhere, but he does say at various points in the transcript, I was involved through the whole thing. I heard about this stuff as it was going on. I can't really tell you a timeline because I was entrenched in this from the time that we got that first allegation. And then, he went on to then use his connections in the media to, like you said, discover leads, find out what maybe was going to be dropping, what wasn't. But the big issue, in my opinion, from what I've read in the transcript so far, was the misrepresentation that Chris Cuomo wasn't being completely biased. Now, I do want to point out, just for the sake of devil's advocate and being fair to all sides, Chris Cuomo, when all this was going on, did go on CNN and say, I'm not going to be reporting on my brother because I'm biased. I have a conflict of interest. So he never did come out on CNN and report on his brother. But it was very clear that he was very deep in helping these PR people, helping these people in the staff, and coming up with strategies and things like that. And I think that the fact that it was so misrepresented to the American people, because listen, Andy, this is what I'm kind of seeing it as. Yeah, they're brothers. That's cool. But besides that, one of them was the governor of New York for 12 years, and one of them has the most watched segment on one of the most watched television networks in the world, much less the United States. So we quite literally have the government colluding with the corporate media to spin narratives. And that's just something I'm never going to be okay with. I don't care if it's your brother, your mama, your Jesus, whoever. It's not okay.
Right. Just like separation of church and state, which is so important to me. It's like the same thing of just your family's even bigger than church in a way, So, yeah, you're going to be biased. You're not going to be honest. It's going to be a conflict of interest. Absolutely. And you're right. I'm glad you said that. Chris Cuomo did, to his credit, like, look, I'm not going to report on this. He did. He couldn't have. He would have been a complete fool if he had tried. But yeah, it puts him in an odd spot. And the reality, and I put the poll up trying to ask everybody, would you, use your job and resources like he did to find out what dirt there is on a family member? And it's about a 50-50 smack down the middle. I think it is a moral conundrum for a lot of people. And I'm not going to fault someone for wanting to look out for their family. And in fact, Chris has now, I did finally get He did do a response. He's still hosting his Sirius XM show, and his response is, "It hurts to even say it. It's embarrassing, but I understand it. And I understand why some people feel that way. They do about what I did. I've apologized in the past, and I mean it." He said this morning on his radio show, "It's the last thing I ever wanted to do was compromise any of my colleagues and do anything but help. I know they have a process that they think is important. I respect that process, so I'm not going to talk about this any more than that." So it's interesting what his next step's going to be. But even here is sort of like, I know they have a process that they think is important. Like, he's clearly defensive here and clearly doesn't agree with what's being done to him. And to me, it really comes down to, all right, well, what was he really doing? I mean, from what you were looking through, BJ, do you feel like he was smearing? Do you feel like he was actually trying to change the narrative? Or was he just digging for information? Because where do you stand on that? Like, do you have a problem with him privately calling around his colleagues to say, look, are you going to drop something on my brother? Or is that what it was? Or is it more nefarious or more involved than that?
I guess, it depends. From what I could tell, it seemed as though the reason he was, I guess, the short answer is, my answer will depend on Chris Cuomo's reason. So from what I can tell, and this is just speculation, Chris Cuomo was actively participating in the strategy to defend publicly his brother. And, that was his intention when trying to find leads on people or release employee personnel files and things like that. And so, considering this was a lawsuit and perhaps could turn even into a criminal investigation, I do think it was a little bit improper, because Chris Cuomo wasn't just calling someone to say, hey, look, this has put me in a really tough spot. I just need to know what to expect. My employer is barking down my neck. My brother's barking down my neck. Ronan Farrow, do you have a story coming out? I just need to know what to expect. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. Personally, this is my opinion. But the fact that he was taking that information and then bringing it to his brother as an active participant in the defense strategy team, while he was still currently acting in this role of unbiased media reporter, does kind of give me pause. I'm kind of still determining how I feel on it. So I want to be clear that I'm kind of on the fence about it all, but I am leaning toward it was a little improper, again, because he was acting like he was going to stay out of it, but all the while he wasn't staying out of it. He was using his role as a media representative and as a journalist. I've been calling him a fake news actor, but I mean, anyone, a lot of people would consider him to be a journalist. And so it seemed to me like it was a little bit of a violation of journalistic integrity, and CNN would agree with me. But I don't know. I mean, I'm open to changing my mind on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're in the right. We still have more to figure out about this as we get it, and BJ is going through. It's a lot of documents that BJ goes through, and that's why I always recommend she goes through it all very, very well, meticulously, and then gives you good breakdowns. So make sure you check her out. I'm sure she'll be updating you as she gets more information on this if you want really to get into the nitty gritties of it. But yeah, I'm opening up because I'm seeing here some of the documents, the exhibits, etc. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through, as I'm noticing here. But yeah, for you said you were about 60% or so through. I think what you're saying is spot on. I agree. It's like I'm on the fence myself too, because how involved was he really getting? Again, if he was just asking for things, it doesn't sound like it was just that. It sounds like there was more reasons he was more involved. Do you think CNN knew? Do you think CNN knew more than maybe, or sort of batting a blind eye, ignoring the fact that, come on, Chris, there was clearly more to this than you want to admit, but we're going to stand by you anyway? I mean, they've been defending him for months. They've defended him through multiple other sort of instances or troubles that he's had, because he's the number one show on their network right now at that hour. Do you feel like CNN has egg on their face now, or do you think they're going to get away with, look, we didn't know until these documents came, and that was too far for us, so yeah, now we got to make a move?
In my heart, I feel like CNN either knew the extent of Chris's involvement, or they took deliberate steps not to know, right? Like they went out of their way not to ask too many questions or whatever. Again, this is just my opinion. I really don't know. It is possible that CNN had no idea, but given my personal interactions with CNN actors and reporters, it seems as though CNN knows what its employees are doing.
So speaking of that, we have more information that CNN has done this. I mean, there's countless if you really go do the research, but you have one that hit close to you. Again, you can watch the full video over on her channel, but to sort of explain a little bit what happens here, who is this CNN reporter, this fake news anchor that did this report with you?
And that one's name is Chloe Melas, Melas. And she is an entertainment reporter who reports on Britney Spears and other people. She worked previously at the tabloid Hollywood Life and essentially has continued to be a tabloid propagandist at CNN.
So she set up an interview with you. This was over the summer. Help me break down the timeline. She set up an interview to talk about Britney and sort of go ahead, explain that you guys can watch the video and get more intel. Or if you have a part you want me to play here specifically, let me know. But can you sort of break down what CNN did to you and Britney?
Yeah. So the super long story short is I was asked by some of the people in the Free Britney movement who have contacts with the media to interview with Chloe. And, we were put together in an email thread, and then almost immediately Chloe was like, oh, yeah, but can we get more people, like maybe the people who were on the New York Times documentary to come on the interview? And immediately I took that to mean they did not want to know the message I was going to be saying, and they wanted more like fans, because I've been very clear that I'm not a Britney Spears fan first and foremost. I like her now, but before I came into the movement, I wasn't a fan. I didn't know about her music, really. You know what I mean? So okay, that sounds stupid. I obviously knew about it, but you know what I mean? I wasn't a stan. And the media liked to portray the Free Britney movement as these like crazed, hysterical fans. And I'm just not that. I'm a lawyer I graduated from a very good law school. I was working at a very good law firm at the time. And so it seemed as though they were not to interrupt,
it's like they do it with the Johnny Depp case too. There's like, oh, they're just Johnny Depp stans who are obsessed with him and think he's sexy. That's why they're doing this. But it's like, no, I don't find him sexy. I'm a dude. I like women, but I get why he's sexy, sure. But no, it's an injustice. And there's a lot of people that were on this case, and Britney's, Johnny's, several, for the injustice. But yeah, the media tends to want to, just to echo and back you up, there's so many hit pieces that have been happening against Johnny, labeling it as stans or robots, et cetera, that aren't really out there. But yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah, so like exactly the same playbook, and it's not surprising that they would be doing this exact same thing because it works usually. Because not everybody they ask to interview, not every fan has a YouTube channel or a platform, you know what I mean? So we finally, set up this interview, and myself and the other participants in this interview, we actually met 2 nights in advance to have dress rehearsals for 2 nights. And people were asking us questions, like we were ready, like we were prepared. So we get into this interview, and Chloe is asking all kinds of off the wall questions about boyfriends and trying basically to get us to admit on camera that we don't believe that she's part of Jamie Spears's payroll, which is absurd to me. Like now I'm kind of starting to be a little bit like, I don't trust the media. But at this time I was like, I hadn't even thought about the possibility that a journalist could be on someone's payroll that they're writing stories. I hadn't even really, I know that's naive, but I hadn't even thought of that. And so she was like over and over, and y'all can go watch this video yourself. She asks us to confirm, oh, can we all agree that I'm not on the payroll? It was the weirdest thing. I was like, girl, I'm just trying to tell you about the constitutional violations that went on in this case. And then she spent quite a lot of time trying to tell us that because Britney gets an allowance and she can drive her car and sometimes see her kids, that it wasn't as bad as we were trying to make it seem. Like it was total propaganda. It was total like Chloe trying to convince us to, basically stop trying to come so hard. And in my opinion, I think it was a little bit of an intel gathering mission. We were on this call for close to 2 hours. Chloe did not air a second of our interview, and certainly not 1 second of me saying any of this stuff. And that's not unusual. I've interviewed with probably 24 media outlets, and none of my stuff I say ever makes it to the light of day. But in this particular situation, we had it on camera, and we had a lot of evidence that she had interviewed us for the purpose of airing this footage. But when we did not give her the agenda that she wanted to spin and further her agenda, she just axed and scrapped the whole thing. Now I'm saying she, but I am in strong belief that it was her higher ups at CNN that gave her that directive. I mean, Chloe Malos came up to me in the courthouse on September 29th, which is before I aired this video and published this video to my YouTube channel. And she expressed to me that she's not even allowed to voice her personal opinion on her Twitter page, on her personal Twitter, about the Britney Spears case. And it's kind of like, that seems odd to me, but a lot of people would tell you that's typical for the entertainment and the media, industry, the news industry. But to me, it's odd that she's being silenced and not able to say her personal opinion. To me, that indicates that it's because she's being hired to push a certain narrative.
Well, it's just disturbing to hear that you guys aren't allowed to present your opinion, because while I can understand her as a newscaster wanting to hold her cards to her vest or not pick a side, like, honestly, that's what newscasters are supposed to do, right? Back in the day when we had, like, Walter Cronkite and even Tom Brokaw, Peter Jennings back in the day, like icons of news back in the day, like, you didn't really know where they stood on the issues. Like, that was what made a good newsman, or they were newsmen at the day. Sorry, ladies, but they were. But back in the day, like, what made a newsman was you didn't know what his political allegiance was, right? He was there to ask the questions, give you the report, and move on. And it's changed so much now. And so it's weird. There are a lot of opinion. I mean, I'm an opinion news station. Clearly, I share my opinions and I'll hide them. But it's what's sad is CNN trying to play like they're not an opinion station, and then putting down these rules that say, well, you can't show your opinions, but then clearly have an opinion of like, well, we're not going to let these fans actually share their opinion that is against the narrative that we want about Britney, because right now we want Britney to look crazy. That's what we need to continue to do, because that's what the media has done for years, and we need to keep that going. So yeah, those supporters that don't seem like stans and they seem smarter than we thought, yeah, just cut that piece is what ends up seemingly happening here. And I think that's the problem that CNN is so guilty of. And it's not just CNN. I'm calling out CNN just because they called out, Chris Cuomo for this type of behavior. But CNN, hello, you got to step up and clear house on a lot of these reporters if that's what you believe in. So it's just the hypocrisy over there, the ridiculousness. It's so maddening. And it just, again, we have to keep better eye on it, because I don't want to just make a video here seemingly bashing CNN. This is more about the media in general. Like, Fox News also sucks. I want to make sure I'm hitting both sides here. This isn't like some everyone thinks I'm conservative, BJ, because I'm only hitting up one. No, they all suck, guys. They all suck. There's a reality check here you guys need to check out. And these news outlets are not helping us. They want us divided. They want us yelling at each other. They want to create this toxic fear agenda. That's what the media excels on. Are you gonna watch? You're going to watch a video that says Omicron is totally normal, don't worry about it? Or are you going to watch really scared about Omicron? Like, that's the sad reality right now. And it's like, am I even allowed to say that, or am I anti-vax? It's like, it's insane how extreme one side or the other will now make our news. And then you can see that literally parlaying into our community social engagements, because it's us versus them. It's this versus that. And it's so frightening. But I'm glad you brought that up, because it's just yet another example of why we have to be very careful and not just trusting our media sources. Don't just trust me. Don't just trust BJ. Don't just trust anybody. Do your homework. Watch multiple reports. Read more. Get deeper into it. Find the information, find the evidence, and then figure out what connects to you and how does that work. That's what I like to do here, is have a conversation and figure it all out. But do you share that problem? Do you feel the division? Do you feel like that's really what the news is doing? I mean, I'll be honest. I know for a fact if I make a headline more salacious, they'll click on it. The constant wrestling I have, and I'm sure you as a creator have this too, it's like, you got to be salacious but honest is really what I'm always working on when I'm doing my headlines, because YouTube, you, the audience, I'm sorry, a lot of you choose which ones you watch based on the marketing of said title. And while I don't want to lie in my title, I still got to put some caps in there that say shocking or whatever the hell it is, because I'm telling you, the data I have and the algorithm I have, you won't take the news any other way. And so do you sense that same dilemma that we're in?
Absolutely. And I think that it's very interesting that a lot of the people who are my personal friends, who I really, love and care about, like, this is not a dig or a drag on them, but it's almost as if they can understand why binary thinking is really harmful in some contexts, but in other contexts, they're just binary thinkers. And I've really thought a lot about this over the last few months, really, especially just the last year since I've been involved in the Free Britney movement, that if it's like you're criticizing the media for reporting on, you know, vaccines or something in a certain way, it's like, oh, you're a Republican or you're a conservative. But if you criticize Donald Trump, then you're a lib, you're a Democrat. It's like, I would very much like to be excluded from this binary thinking. Like I'm kind of like feeling like I'm sort of floating above, like looking down. Like I'm not really like trying to be a part of the whole.
It's so weird. It's like the gender
divide.
debate. I don't want a label. I want my pronoun and I want political pronouns to be. Leave me alone. Like, can we start that process?
Yes, I feel that way, and it's like. We're allowed to say, I mean, you know, I don't want to get too politically charged here, but it's pretty ridiculous that talking about whether or not to make a medical decision for your own health, your own body, or your own child, if they're not able to do that, is somehow political. It shouldn't be. And we hear criticisms on all the sides of the aisle whenever I guess what I'm really learning, Andy, is that both sides are hypocritical.
Yes.
They use the same exact strategies that they condemn the other side for using. And I'm trying to kind of cut through all that noise and find the truth. I say it all the time. My God is the truth, and the truth is my God. And I serve one God only, and that's the truth. So whoever that's convenient or inconvenient to, but what I'm rambling now, because I've actually thought a lot about this lately. And I think a lot of us are feeling this sort of, you're either black or white, 1 or 0, on or off, you know, whatever. And it's like, that is not reality. Reality is shades of gray. And we have to get comfortable participating in discussions without putting someone in a box. Like, you're a Republican. Okay, but so what? Even if someone is a Republican, that doesn't mean 100% of the stuff they say is wrong. Same goes for Democrats. Same goes for Fox News. Same goes for CNN. But I will tell you one thing. They are all lying to us on some points. Every station. I mean, the big ones, you know. I don't think you're lying, but
no, but all the networks, they all have the sort of variant slants of what we have, and it's just a good recollection because look, they're all making money, and the reality is like there's a point of like, look, that's what I'm making money too. It's a job here. I take this seriously, right? I've been doing this for a while, but there's something scary when you have this corporation, these news corporations that are making money. And then their people who are reporting the news can't even share their own opinions. It's all this sort of weird sort of narrative that the higher ups do, and it's what the reality check is. Rupert Murdoch does it at Fox. What's his name? Zucker does it at CNN. There's always somebody who's trying to please somebody. It's why I really like the show Succession, which I keep telling my fans to watch over on HBO, because you really get to see the behind the scenes of like a family who runs this big news conglomerate and just how shitty these people are, how corrupt they are, how even they are just miserable. Like they're literally selecting who the president's going to be, and it's so you watch it and you're like, God, this is so true to form, but they somehow still find to make it entertaining, and you hate everybody, but then you're rooting. Somehow they make you root for it's an amazing show. I highly suggest, because it sort of breaks down a real good worldview of like, of course it's connected. They have this whole episode where, and I totally believe this happens, where like they're like the corporation's going down, and they decide to just lean in harder in criticizing the president because they want the president to, bat away some, allegation that he's facing. And you watch it, it's just terrifying. You're like, this happens all the damn time. The politicians, the media, they're super connected because it's all money, big donors. Who are the biggest people? They own the media firms, and everyone's own. We have 10 people now, probably, BJ, that are the richest people in the world that are sort of buying and everything's sort of grouping and joining together. It's a scary place. We got to be more due diligence. I have more of our due diligence to like pay attention to realize, no, we can't just listen to everybody because they all have a motive. And I think, again, not to get political, but it's like the pandemic was this perfect opportunity for a lot of people to exploit and take advantage because it is scary. It is real. Like, it's a thing that's happening. But that's why I think, the division's even stronger, because I've seen the media do it over and over again of what you said, just us versus them, one side or the other, when the reality is people are allowed to ask questions. If you're not asking questions, then there's a problem. If you're just be like, yes, channel, whatever you tell me is the truth. That's a scary world to live in. I don't know about you, but
that's a cult.
Yeah.
If you're not allowed to ask questions, you're in a cult.
Yes. No, it's true.
And
it's
listen,
like, go ahead. No, go.
It sounds like I'm being like, oh, I know everything and stuff. Like, I want y'all to understand and realize all of these realizations are super new for me. Like, in the election, I was following CNN and MSNBC and listening to what even Chris Cuomo and Rachel Maddow. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's not Fox News. I did kind of notice there was a lot more opinion going on than I had previously noticed, but it really wasn't until the Free Britney movement where I had my ear to the ground on the pulse of this case. I knew everything that was going on in the publicly available space. And what the media, and I'm talking Fox, Good Morning America, Today Show, Entertainment Tonight, all of these networks were not reporting the full truth. They were all slanting the story, and it seemed weird to me that they weren't telling the truth. And so I'm realizing that, like what you said, I mean, it's like 15 billionaires that own everything. They own Moderna, they own Pfizer, they own Johnson & Johnson, they own CNN, MSNBC, they own Fox News, they own everything. Every source of information that you can get on this virus is owned by the same 15 people. And then what you can get from the government is usually highly redacted or behind paywalls or really difficult to access. And that's why if I talk about a subject on my channel, I make very strident efforts to just put the information out. The Cuomo transcript, the Cuomo exhibits, they're up in my Google Drive. Go click them and read them yourself, because don't, like someone said in your comments, and I thought it was a really good analogy, this is pre-digested news. It's not really deep dives into anything. It's like instant oatmeal, someone said. Sorry, I didn't remember your name, but it's exactly right. It's like, oh, sure, you can eat it. If you really need to know what's going on, you can get it from CNN, kinda, but you are not getting the full nutrients of the story. And I think that's an excellent analogy. And also same goes for Fox. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm out here standing Fox News, because they were public enemy number one in my life for a very long time. I'm just now realizing that it's rampant across all political beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, there's more egregious ones. Like Newsmax is like really bad. Like you can have levels of how bad. Like you think Fox is bad, but then you see Newsmax, and you're like, wow, they'll just blatantly lie for whatever they want to do. But it's great. It's a cult. It's a total cult. And that's a lot of these politicians and people line into that. And that's why Trump wants to make his own network. Because let's be honest, let's call it for what it is. He wants to make his own network so that way his people just believe him. And now it's not fake news. It's my news. The smartest thing I will give Trump credit for was fake news, because it's real. It's a real sad phenomenon, and it's across the board on both sides of what the issue is. But when you have Fox News constantly doing reports that everything's fake news but them, you're like, dude, nice try. Like, it was really funny. I don't know if you saw Tucker Carlson did a whole piece on Chris Cuomo. I can imagine the writing room of that session, because Tucker Carlson's like, you know what? We're going to surprise everybody. Let's be pro Cuomo on this. And that's what they decided to do, because they realized they could take a bigger shot at CNN by saying, how dare they not support him for being loyal to his family? This is the one time I support Chris Cuomo. So there you have Tucker Carlson like suddenly going off on his soapbox, who's like Cuomo's enemy, and like basically just to make CNN look stupid. But you know, if CNN had kept him, Tucker would have wrote in the script of, look at CNN does it, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no matter what way they spin it, they figure out a way to twist it and spin it to always play, against their enemy and get the audience rallied up against the enemy. And I see it both ways. Like, I was watching Chris Cuomo clips, and I got to be honest, there are some cringe clips of Chris Cuomo attacking conservatives on his network and getting owned. Like, there's a few, you can go find them out there, but it's like, I don't even know which one. There was one I was watching with this, I don't even know if he's conservative, but they were arguing about Muslim bans or something, and Cuomo was just attacking him really hard. And you're in trouble when you're in an interview, BJ, and the host is talking for 90% of said interview because the guest is just quickly sniping back with facts or like rebuttals that are actually have a point. And then Cuomo's got a backpedal rebuttal to keep his narrative spinning and then, make more nonsense. And I was watching this, I could see like, Chris Cuomo wasn't always being honest, guys. He just wasn't. We caught it with the Brian Laundrie stuff. He was out there taking sources from Dirtalino as if, there was a evidence at the campground or whatever. Like the reality check here that I think, and I'm glad we're finally, I've had so much trouble, BJ, because I somehow attracted a lot of conservatives, and then they got mad at me when I would be more independent. And then all the liberals were like, Andy's conservative MAGA support. It's like they have no idea because they're not paying attention. And so I'm very grateful that I think I finally am coming in my way, because this audience and everybody else were stumbling upon an more independent voice, because the reality is that's really what the world is. As you said, shades of gray. It's not black and white. And I struggle and get really angry on the extremism on the left and the right. It's really dangerous. And I see anybody who's going to say, look, I'm only going to decide with what the left tells me. You're in a cult. If you're only going to side with what the right says, you're in a cult. Because the reality is,
cult, baby.
There are interesting debates on the right and the left. There are good ideas in the conservative side, and there are good ideas in the liberal side. And every person is different, and we should be allowed to pick and choose which things we want to be without being judged and yelled at and saying we're MAGA Trump supporter racists. That's
judged or yelled at, or fired from our job, or doxxed, or followed home. I mean, some of y'all really just do a little bit too much. Like, let people have opinions, for God's sake. And back to, Chris Cuomo, he lied about Britney as well, or he lied about the Free Britney movement. He came out after it was very, very clear that there were lots of professionals in this movement. He came out on his little show and said, well, these people are not, legal minds. Excuse me, sir. You went to Fordham Law School and I went to Penn. Relax. Legal minds. Excuse me? Sir, not to get elitist over here, but your club would say that my legal mind is like 2 or 3 tiers above yours. So play by which rules? You know what I mean? He's just, and I've been calling them actors because I don't think, Andy, and you've been in media, so maybe you can tell me what your impression of this is. I don't think that Chris Cuomo is sitting down at his computer like me and you are, looking up the stories and the sources and coming out and telling. I think he sits his behind down at his teleprompter, reads the story, does his faces, does his little eye cross, and then goes home. I mean, so he's an actor. How is that? People are getting mad at me for calling him and Chloe Malos actors, but actors are people who read scripts for their job. So how are they not actors? They're not allowed to have opinions. They read scripts other people write. How is it not an actor?
Well, as you said that, I'm trying to find a clip because I was, as this happened, because I was doing my due diligence. He does. He's not only out there just reading scripts, but there was a really cringy clip of him just working out half the time into his poor staff, where you're just like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing? Yeah, look, look, I don't know. I wasn't in the office. I can't tell how much he was, but yeah, when you get to a high enough point like this, usually you have a producer, writer, staff that, you show up. You say what, you give some opinions or you can change some stories, but yeah, you're pretty much there to sort of read the room. Sometimes you're there for a writing session or something and you lean into it just like Tucker Carlson or other people would. But at the same time, yeah, at this point, they have become actors. They're not actually being as honest as possible. By the way, this is the guy, Sebastian Gorka, Dr. G, Fredo, the full Fredo thing. So that was the clip I was watching. That was very cringe. If you want to go find that. But the other, this was my favorite. This was my favorite. I've just every newscaster has these moments, but this one really made me laugh.
And please show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. And please.
The First Amendment, you just gotta look it up.
First Amendment, you gotta look it up. It's like,
oh my God, is that my cousin? I feel like me and that guy would connect on a spiritual
he's eating
level.
Dry ramen noodles, and he knew. But
it's right there on the First Amendment.
It's like, tell me where protests have to be peaceful, BJ. These newscasters just get on these pedestals and just scream it confidently, and therefore they are the authorities and know what the facts are. And that's what's so scary about it. That Chris Cuomo's going to keep doing that to so many people. It's a
I think
scary
too
place.
that the American people at least are tired of feeling this influence of control by the media. Like even people who like me previously hadn't really felt this way are kind of like, I feel like these people are trying to control my mind to think their version of it, instead of just giving me the reality and letting me discern. And listen, reality is subjective. I understand that. But like, they don't give the fact. Like Chris Cuomo, that's a perfect example, sitting there going, where does it say that it has to be peaceful? Like that is his opinion. Like some people in this country truly strongly believe that protests morally should be a peaceful thing. Some people believe that they should not. But that's the point we should be discussing. we shouldn't be discussing whether or not we have to follow the control of the regime delivered by Chris Cuomo. And that's kind of how I think a lot of people are starting to feel like, why so much need to be yelling and controlling? Just tell me what happened, release the video footage, and let me decide. And it's like, Chris Cuomo even said, do you remember WikiLeaks whenever there was like this big movie? Remember that North Korea movie that like James Franco or whoever made? It was like making fun of North Korea. It was like a comedy.
Yeah, the interview with Seth Rogen. Yeah.
Seth Rogen, yes. Okay, so the interview. So around that time that all that stuff was going on, a bunch of stuff was leaked. Sony executives' emails and things were leaked on WikiLeaks. Anybody can go look it up. So at that time, there were people who were like me and you making videos about it on YouTube, making video TikToks or whatever. Chris Cuomo went on the news and said, it is illegal for you people to have that. If you're getting information about WikiLeaks, it has to come from us at the media because we're allowed to have it. Let me tell you one thing. The Constitution makes no such protection for Chris Cuomo. It says that we, the people, have the freedom of the press. You do not have to have a press badge. You do not have to have an LLC. We, the people, are the press. The whole purpose of the press is to be able to control and put a control on a tyrannical government. So Chris Cuomo, a lawyer, standing up on CNN telling people that we are not allowed to read things that we are absolutely allowed to read was such a big transgression to me that was like a huge red flag. And now this stuff, I'm just like, man, I don't want to be cynical about the media, but I am, man.
Well, and I found the clip. It was actually part of Tucker's. Here's Tucker being nice. Chris Cuomo may be an idiot, but he understands his obligation is to the people he's related to. When they need your help, they need your help. That was the spin that Fox went with. But here's the actor, Chris Cuomo.
With the videos that Chris Cuomo had shot of himself and then put on the internet. Imagine wanting other people to see this.
Sorry, I've been really busy, but I am working out. I mean, let's be honest. You don't get to look like that by nothing. No, I'm kidding. Let's get a little pre-show pump.
What does it say?
Cuomo prime time. Hashtag let's get after it. 100 pounds, just kind of just work it out. A little bit of light stuff.
Yeah, he's not an actor.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to work for this guy who's constantly doing weights?
News time.
We were also using that Fred Flintstone dumbbell.
This is multitasking for a real man.
Oh. That's even Tucker's.
Oh, his poor staff. So yeah.
It's like, I hate Tucker, but sometimes he does. When he comes
and
in there
I
with that knife.
disagree with Tucker too on this. Like, is Tucker Carlson a news anchor, literally, legitimately typing on Twitter? Yeah. He's basically telling you that if his brother gets accused of some effed up stuff, that he's going to just go ahead and support his brother and not tell us. Like, shut up. Keep that to yourself. Like, I don't know.
But it's crazy.
I'm just annoyed.
It's crazy. I mean, you asked, is he an actor? Yeah, I mean, dude, anybody who's out there constantly showing off the muscles and he's literally in his office doing that instead of prepping a story. Yeah, I think your instinct that he's an actor is fair. But look, that's who we're getting the news from. And I'm not going to stop. Tucker Carlson's an idiot, too, for the record. I'll say it out loud. I'm not a fan of this guy either. But both Cuomo and Tucker have gotten some good jokes or jabs at others throughout. I can be objective and watch and see when it's funny and when it's not. But Tucker's clearly getting the last laugh today, as Cuomo would do if Tucker was on the firing squad. And I'm sure he will be at some point. But that's what they do. And so it's just interesting to see how the takes are. I think the longest short of it, though, is we got to be better at just not trusting it. We got to be better at making sure we aren't just believing it. There's a lot of media that's just really dangerous. It's dividing us. And I'm so grateful for all of you in this amazing community for allowing us to have real conversations. Nobody wants to have conversations anymore. We had Steph and I had an amazing conversation yesterday in our chat that was, you don't really have anywhere else. It was could have gotten fiery elsewhere. And I was so glad we were able to have that conversation and hug at the end of it, because if we don't have some debate and civil discourse, what are we doing here? I don't want to live in an echo chamber. Do you, BJ?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I mean, that's a joke. No, I do not. I would like to live where everybody's top priority is, the truth and sort of compassion and giving each other the benefit of the doubt. Even these lowlifes like Tucker Carlson. Like, I do believe that. And that's just my personal opinion. Everybody's allowed to have their own. But no, I don't want to live in an echo chamber. And I want to be able to talk about stuff that I feel like is becoming like impossible to even talk about. Like, we have parts of the internet that are making these broad sweeping things like certain demographics of people are not even allowed to have an opinion on certain topics. And it's like, that's anti-intellectual. We are going to go extinct as a species. We are going to go extinct if we're not start to be a little nicer to each other, a little more understanding of each other. We're going there, y'all. I mean, the Astro World stuff, I know you've been covering that. Like the depravity and the sort of nonchalant, laissez-faire, attitude toward human life that we are able to observe on video is a huge red flag to me, that we are headed down a path that is absolutely unhealthy and not natural at all. We should care more about each other than that.
Yeah, well, I blame social media so much. I think we're also addicted to the phones and the endorphins to get those likes and attention. And then we all feel more like authorities, like our opinions matter more than they potentially do to the masses. There's just a lot of issues that we are facing, but the division. There's two. I think you're right. There's especially the next generation. That Astroworld is a perfect example of it. Just this lack of empathy and compassion. There's a lot of it. But then there's this social media compassion where, yay, we must all support whatever we want. But then the reality is they'll steamroll over one group just to appease one group, and you're like, what is it? I've had Lewis, our Latin person here, who just despises that Latinx term, and I've talked about it a lot. And it's like, my Puerto Rican partner hates Latinx. They're like, no, don't call me that. But you have these media people who are so afraid and need to be safe that we have a minority group who's like, no, we need to be called Latinx. And then so they just define everybody in the Latino community as Latinx. And it's like, whoa, wait. 90% of us want nothing to do with that term. You're offending us. Why?
I
so
think,
what?
Andy, 90%,
which
a survey that I saw showed that 90% of actual Latino and Latina people who were surveyed did not even know what the term meant and had not even heard of it.
But
it's this tiny percentage of people that are shoving it down everyone's throat, and actual Latina people are going, what? I don't even know what that is. I mean, I don't know. I'm not Latina.
But even my point is, like, if someone wants to identify as that, great. But where I get frustrated with is this sort of this entitlement that, no, I need it, so we all must now use it. Suck it up. I've gotten in fights with people where I'm just like verbal spats on Twitter. I'm like, dude, call what you want. But I have way too many friends that don't want to be called that. So no, I'm not going to use that as a general catch-all, and no one should, because these people are offended. So wait,
and it's interesting. Do you know how
which offense is more important, BJ?
Yeah, like, you know how some companies like make you put have the option to put your pronouns in your signature line. So the company I was working for before I quit, because Lou Taylor was trying to hire them to silence me, they were like strongly encouraging us to put our pronouns in our signature lines. Now, I go by BJ professionally. So lots of people think I'm a man when they're emailing with me. And I like that. Science and studies have shown that women get treated poorly as compared to men whenever they have a feminine sounding name or whatever. And so I very intentionally don't want someone to judge me as a woman in the business world, right? I would prefer if they just think whatever they think. And they were pressuring me to put my pronouns in the bottom and the signature line. I'm like, you're literally asking me to put a thing in email that would get me discriminated against by scientific proof. Like, it's like they want these catch-all, these broad strokes, but they don't think about all the nuanced situations that exist within that. It's like, we do not all belong in a 0 or a 1 box. You have to let people make decisions for themselves. This social pressure into the wokeness. Listen, I was on the train. I was on the woke train. I was left book captain, but I'm realizing that is not healthy, and it's not productive. It doesn't help anyone. It's just to sit there and virtue signal and act like you're better than other people. And if that's where you are in your journey right now, no shame. Good for you. Keep on going. But like, this is where I am with it, Andy. I'm 100% on the same page as you. I am so sick of everything being taken and necessarily in the wrong way. No one's getting the benefit of the doubt anymore. And it doesn't seem like a lot of people in some of these spaces are actually trying to search for the truth. It's just who can be the most right. And that's just, I'm sick of it. I'm tapping out.
Who's
I'm
more
tapping
offended,
out.
right? Who deserves to, we deserve more than you. And it's like, whoa, what's going on? And then if you even have this conversation, you're deemed phobic to some community or group, where it's like, how the hell did we get here? I don't even understand it. It's such a slippery slope. But yeah, it's a comforting to at least know more and more people are having the conversation. And what's so scary, it's like with pronouns and everything else, like I've tried so hard to have a conversation about even like the whole J.K. Rowling thing. Talk about a landmine that I don't even want to like try to get you involved in, but I've admitted my ignorance. I'm like, look, I don't know, but I have some opinions, but I'm like, can someone actually come in and have a conversation with me about it? Dude, no one will do it. No one will have a fair civil conversation about it.
About what is the it? Like that she has gone publicly said that
she's like for biological gender is what I've gathered from like the base. We're just doing to talk his point. Like she's like, I was born a female. That's important to me. And then, well, but that's not fair because other people feel. And she's like, well, that's not even what I'm saying. I'm just saying there is biological gender. That's, you know, sex, or I don't even know. I'm ignorant to all this. But my point is, it's like, we shouldn't be afraid to walk on eggshells to be like, well, wait a second, J.K. Rowling kind of has a point, and isn't she allowed to like feel that way too? Like, does that mean she hates a whole group of people? Not necessarily. Like, can we actually have a discussion about this without canceling her and then forcing the entire, like, all of us to burn our Harry Potter books? Like,
and for me, it kind of goes a step further. Like, let's say there was some way to like ascertain whether or not she could feel that way, whatever. Like, if J.K. Rowling is in fact a bigot, I'm not saying she is, but if she is, then people still want you to take it a whole step further and start to control you and what you do and what you buy and what you read. It's like, well, J.K. Rowling is a bigot, and so therefore you are not allowed to enjoy the art that she created. And if you do, then you're also a bigot. I'm like, that does not logically add up. There's lots of nuance as to why people would want to like these Harry Potter books. That has nothing to do with J.K. Rowling. They might even know she even wrote it. And now all of a sudden, if they keep reading this book, they're a bigot too. We got to stop. Like, we got to stop trying to control other people's happiness. We just got to stop. I mean, we saw it with Britney Spears the other day. She posted a freaking makeup setting spray that she got for free from Jeffree Star. And all of a sudden, it's ever cancel Britney Spears. There's literally people on Twitter literally saying Britney Spears is canceled because she shared a setting spray that she got for free. The girl has been enslaved and imprisoned, and y'all are worried about who she's adding on Twitter. It does not make sense to me. It's just mayhem, and I want to tap out.
Yeah, and sorry, I guess my audio, there's my audio issue. Let me know if it's better. I reset some chords. But
I can hear you.
You can hear me okay. Hopefully you guys can as well. The you're spot on with the Jeffree Star thing. I meant to cover that too, but and I had some people, I won't name names, but somebody who knows Jeffree Star that's like, look, that's not what he was doing. Like, there's no benefit of the doubt anymore. There's always just they've done wrong. They're the enemy. It's a very scary place, and people, are so quick to judge Britney, as I knew they were gonna. I knew the Free Britney thing, as beautiful as it was for as long as it was starting to splinter, because all those groups eventually, they can't agree forever, and then they're gonna be so quick to criticize as soon as she makes a mistake that it's like, that's what we fought for her to be able to make her own damn mistakes. Like, that's the beauty of being human and being free. She's gonna make mistakes, but my God, let her make her own damn mistakes, because otherwise, what's the point of what we were trying to do? But it's a maddening world. Look, I could talk all day, and we are going to talk some more, but I want to clip this portion. BJ's not down yet. I'm going to keep her here to take any questions. I do want to quickly promote one more time, though. Make sure you've subscribed to That Surprise Witness. She does some amazing breakdowns. She keeps it real. She keeps it honest. Hopefully, you're getting a vibe of her, and you like her voice. If you do, mods are sharing the link in the comments down below, so go support, go subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe here. YouTube likes to unsubscribe you guys, so can you check right now? Hit the bell for all alerts. While you're there, let's smash the like button and get more likes, because we're keeping it real here. Leave your comments, help the engagement, all that stuff. We aren't done. I'm just clipping this portion for the main event, which confuses all of you, but I just trim it. YouTube tells you if you have 4-hour streams, nobody clicks on them. So I try to keep it to like half-hour, hour-long videos that I trim later. If you want to watch the full unedited live streams that we do daily, become a member. You can find it on our members-only playlist right on the front of my channel page. So hit that join button. You can check it out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is when the videos come up, but live viewers, don't go anywhere. We're not done. I'm just clipping this portion for the show, so hold on one second.